Okay, hi Dawn, thanks for joining us today. If you wouldn't mind, could you just do a bit of an introduction as to who you are, kind of what you're doing, what you're focused on, and why you started working with policy and practice?
Okay, cool. Thanks for asking me to come and speak to you today. My name's Dawn Cove. I'm the Head of Benefits for Redbridge Council. My remit includes administration of housing benefit council tax reduction, recovery of overpayments, and most importantly, my welfare benefit team. So that team work very proactively to intervene with families in the community who are facing poverty. Over the years, we've managed to develop that team further, and we realised a couple of years ago that we just didn't have enough data on our residents. We knew who they were, but we didn't know their circumstances, disabilities, children, household makeups, etc. And that's when we started to engage with policy and practice and the LIFT dashboard. So over the last 18 months, we've made use of the dashboard, no more so than in the last year.
Mm-hmm.
It's been absolutely fantastic. So would you like me to tell you some of the projects we've...
Yeah, if that's okay, that was going to be my next question.
Okay.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, so after the initial shock of the pandemic, we started to look at some cohorts that maybe we could help without the employment support, because obviously at that time we were in lockdown, jobs weren't freely available. So we started with the pensioners 75 and over who were due to start paying television licences if they didn't have pension credit.
Mm-hmm.
So we worked with a fairly large group of those people. That was our first big campaign, and we learned a lot from that.
Yeah.
We learned we've got a fantastic report from LIFT around who these people were, what their situations were, what benefits they were getting. And initially we started to ring them, and we quickly found out that wasn't the right approach with an elderly cohort. So we then switched to sending out letters and following that up with a phone call. So
and that works better then, did it?
For that cohort, yes, yeah.
Right.
I think you have to look at your cohort, look at how they tend to communicate anyway during day-to-day life. You know, if you're looking at a younger cohort, you're probably looking at email as the best option.
Mm-hmm.
Older people, they like a letter.
Yeah.
So that was the first one we did. We did a similar campaign, take up for people who were getting disability benefits but not personal independence payments.
Right.
It's another good one. I think our biggest success so far was in the autumn when we looked at people who were newly unemployed and had to claim council tax reduction for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
So again, from LIFT, we ran a report to get to identify that cohort. We worked with 100 of them, and the approach there was very, very different. We started with one of my welfare benefit officers ringing the person, having a chat with them, making sure they were getting all their correct benefits, that we had the right details, etc. And then talking to them about what additional support we could offer in terms of employment, additional top-up benefits such as discretionary housing payments, etc. And that was a really successful campaign.
Yeah, so more of like a holistic approach to that one. But then, for the first two that you mentioned, like what kind of take-up rates did you get for them? Do you have any results from those yet, or do you know anything about that?
I've got all the results.
Saving them.
Yeah, I'll save them for tomorrow, but I've got them all as part of my presentation tomorrow.
Fantastic.
But yeah, very good. And we're actually we're continuing with that initial cohort. We're trying to continue with them for the next 18 months, just to follow that journey, to see whether that work, the ones that got to work, was it sustainable work, what type of work it was, etc.
Yeah.
So again, that's something that we are working very closely with your analysts on, because we want to know if people are in and out of work, why. We want to sort of get to the bottom of that.
Yeah, so you know more than just the short-term impacts. You know what's happening on a long-term basis, and that the work that you're doing is not just it helps them in the short term, but you want to make sure that it's had that long-term impact, and then evidence is what you've done. Yeah. That's fantastic. Yeah. So for looking forward to the future, like what are the plans? For the next projects, are you going to continue doing more of the pension credit side of things, more of the disability benefits and stuff, or is it you can focus on anything else? What's the plans?
Yeah, the plan, our immediate plan, and something we've started on already, and it's very important, is looking at private tenants who are deemed as being in crisis, at risk or in crisis,
Yeah.
particularly those in crisis,
Right.
because this is the group that we don't know a lot about. We don't know about their rent arrears. For our own tenants in temporary accommodation and council tenancies, we know what their arrears are. We don't know what the position is of these people. So we're looking to work with those at the moment. I've just heard today that we've had a fantastic take up from that. We did a mail shot to just 70 to start off with households, and I think more or less all of them have now come forward applying for discretionary housing payments, and that's our starting point.
Yeah.
We'll look at that discretionary housing payment, but the work doesn't stop there. We then look to help them in other areas, so that's been really successful.
That's fantastic. That's a huge uptake, which will help them financially. But what, in terms of other measures that you do on top of the DHP, can you say what those are?
Yes, so we do what we do with every DHP we get. We do a benefit check to make sure they're getting all of the state benefits that they're entitled to. If they're not, we'll have a chat with them about applying for those benefits, and if needed, if they're vulnerable, we will help them to do that. We will also, with their permission, refer them to our employment arm for support getting back into employment. And again, lots of signposting if they've got debts, etc. So it's quite an intensive package. And what we do with our discretionary housing payments is it's like an agreement. When we award one, we say we're awarding you this amount on the understanding that you'll do X, Y, and Z.
Yeah. Well, that's amazing. Like I said before, it's like more of an all-round approach. So one of the questions I have that just thought about that is, do you find that since working with us in the beginning, you're now able to do more than you were then? Because obviously, some of these campaigns have to start to be manageable. Do you feel like you've become more efficient at this work so that you can do more of it, or are you doing about the same?
We've definitely become more efficient. Sorry, excuse me. Become more efficient since we very first started. We've had lots of support in terms of working with yourselves, not just us using the data work, the Lift dashboard ourselves, but working with you. But I've just started to restructure, and in that restructure, I will have someone who's dedicated to these campaigns. So someone that will run the reports, manage the campaigns, feedback on the campaigns. So that's really important to me, because the reason I don't feel we're using it to its full benefit at the moment, purely because of our own resources. So hopefully we'll rectify that.
Yeah, I think that's great. It's great to know that you've used it, and then you've decided actually this needs dedicated resource allocated to it, as and when we can, and that's the plan moving forward. So that's really exciting to hear. I think that's kind of everything I have in terms of questions, but I'm really excited to see what the results are.
Yeah.
So I'll be keeping tuned for that. But thank you
Brilliant.
very much for joining us,
Okay.
and that's brilliant. Thanks very much.
Lovely.
Dawn.
Thanks.
Cheers.
Thanks, Adam. Yeah.